So this is how it all began for me in Mafia 2, with me holed up in a dingy apartment somewhere wondering where it all went wrong. Now, you might actually remember me from somewhere else, but that's history. No need to exhume it and bring it back into the present. All that matters now is that I've lost absolutely everything and everyone I ever loved, and that cocaine is a hell of a drug. By the way, did I mention that I'm Rick James, bitch? Anyhow, it wasn't all glamour and meatballs for me. Matter of fact, I was a special officer in the stupid brigade. Brigade, oh man. Quite simply put, I was a war hero and was immune to just about anything, except bullets. Bullets were my only weakness. How did they know, those bastards? Lying on the floor, almost dead, about to be completely dead at the hands of Mussolini's henchmen, a miracle happened. A miracle that would forever shape my destiny. Marlon Brando came rolling into town in a tank looking for the nearest gas station. Everyone got so excited that they completely forgot the war that was going on and agreed to go back to his house for a slumber party. And as a result, I was sent back to New York. It was bumping. People were racing around like rats in a machine, I tell ya, going about their pointless daily existences. I wasn't sure how I was going to cope with everyday life again after spending the last couple of months one-tapping tangos in their mangoes, but I was soon going to find out. Me old mate from back in the hood, Joey Smasher, came to greet me at the train station and take me out for some hot spaghetti. It sure had been a long time since I had hot spaghetti. All the spaghetti over in Italy during the war was cold due to lack of global warming. We spent many hours talking about and drinking whiskey. Then after getting completely smashed, I went home to see my mums, who told me I looked like I'd lost weight and to come in and sit down at the dinner table ASAP so she could pump me full of oil, salt and carbohydrates before I withered away into nothing. Then before leaving, she made me promise to go and see Mr. Mario Brothers down by the docks the following morning to ask for a good, clean, honest job and none of that mafia stuff that all the kids were talking about those days. As I was leaving, I saw some cuzzo in a trench coat and fedora hassling my sister. And if there's one thing that you don't do, it's mess with an Italian boy's sister or mum. The Italian fellas watching this video know what's up. Yeah. I cracked out some good old Floyd Mayweather before Floyd Mayweather was even birthed into existence and made that punk regret the day he ever came crawling out of his mum's butt. But I accidentally killed him, and then I freaked out hard. In a panic, I decided to run as fast as I could back to the war in Italy. So I hit a sprint down the main road thinking that if I ran fast enough and just so happened to slip on the icy road, I might just break the speed of light and sound and logic and common sense and all the things and just teleport to Mars, where I could start a new life as a mouse who just so happened to be part of a motorbike gang. I soon learned though that that's not science and started to fight with a dude in the street. Police stopped me and, well, this happened.
Suspect is about 6 feet tall.
Enraged as I was that I had just been gunned down in the streets by the popo, I went and boffed another random that did nothing to deserve it, before going back to Joey Smash's house for some, well, smashing. We then pounded down some more whiskey because we were hopeless alcoholics and our livers demanded death. Then, naturally, completely smashed out of our heads, we thought it would be a great idea to take Joey's car out for a spin.
Just be fucking careful.
And then we stole another one after totaling his, which we then took to a chop shop and changed the plates to Hitman before giving it a nice red spray job. Driving down the street, we made sure to mow down as many innocent pedestrians as we could before dying in a horrific car accident involving a car and an immovable object. Concrete trees. Get you every time. We then headed to a local gang's hideout to steal one of their rides, which we thought we could sell for enough to buy us a pack of smokes and some bubble gum. But they saw me coming and it turned into a full-blown firefight in the streets, just like in the video games. But in this video game, I was Steven Seagal. Unfortunately, after stealing that car, I plowed it into a telegraph pole literally around the corner from where I died crashing into the tree. And I completely totaled the engine of my car, meaning that it was logistically impossible for me to complete my objective, which just so happened to be to drive this particular car to the allocated destination on the literal other side of the fucking map. I, however, have always been an ideas man, and so I had an idea. I stole another car and then used it to push the broken down car all the way across the other side of the map, going around corners, navigating through traffic, running over as many people as I possibly could. Sure, it took me a literal 2 hours in real lifetime to accomplish, but I still did it. And boy oh boy did it come with a great feeling of accomplishment, complete with everything you'd expect except the great feeling of accomplishment, and instead with the feeling of I wish I was dead. Then, after having done the impossible and solidifying my place in the annals of history as possibly the most useless human being that ever lived, I headed to the local gun store where I picked up some firepower, just in case I had another great idea. Very next day, my mums woke me up at 3 a.m. to remind me to go down to the wharf and get a nice honest job with Mr. Mario Brothers. I told her I would, and to stop calling me at 3 a.m. and also asked her what the hell was in the meatballs she gave me for dinner the night before, because I'd shit so much in the past 24 hours that I was looser than Mr. Brothers was in the middle of a nice succulent beefy meal and told me to f*** off, but not before giving me a job as a crate loader for some of his warehouse trucks. I'd finally made it, I thought to myself. Then he told me I had an hourly rate of 5 cents, and I asked him if he had a rope, a window, and whether it was okay for me to jump out of it head first. Within 5 minutes, I decided that I wasn't born to be a box carrier. I was destined for greater things. I just didn't know what, but I was sure it had something to do with guns. Good thing I live in America, I thought to myself, chuckling, remembering the modest arsenal I had in my home that I bought from Walmart the day before. I told Angry Balding Guy to shove the job up his ass and that I'd get a job from Joey M. Smasher. He was surprised to hear that I knew Joey, but told me to go upstairs and to tell that to Mr. Brothers, who might have something else for me to do instead. Mr. Brothers told me that a friend of Mr. M. Smasher was a friend of his. Then he pulled a gun on me because he thought I was telling porkies, but as it turned out, the only porky was Mr. Brothers. And so he gave me another stupid job, but one that paid slightly more than lifting boxes for 5 cents an hour. Another part of the job was to go around and murder his employees to make sure that they worked harder. There did, however, seem to be a little bit of a discrepancy between the methods used and the end result desired. But I didn't ask questions, I just smashed. Later that evening, I went out with the boys to take my mind off the senseless violence that I'd participated in that afternoon. Then was lucky enough to get roped into another get-rich-quick scheme, which is always a great idea. This time involving a cute orange costume, a crowbar, and a jewelry store. What could possibly go wrong, I thought to myself, thinking of a million things that could possibly go wrong, but still going along with it, because I'm a useless moron. And so, as it turned out, if you were really unlucky, you could actually do a jewelry heist in a jewelry store, getting heisted at exactly the same time by a rival gang. I know, what are the chances? Anyway, this Irish dude tried to kill us, but the Popo arrived and tried to kill us, so we had to run away because everyone tried to kill us. We got out of there and stole a cop car and hightailed it away like Thelma and Louise. They'd never catch us, we said to ourselves, guzzling down a big fat glizzy together as we drove down the street at 300 miles per hour with our feet. Then back at the club, we told the boys what had happened and they recommended that we go and visit Goro Majima and pick up some special firepower in case the same thing happened again on the next job. Now, contrary to popular belief, Goro was actually a nice guy and was supposedly also a high-ranking member of the Tojo clan back in Japan. He said he had a nice big gun to give me, and then he gave me a nice big gun. It was nice and big. And gun. We received a tip-off that the same Irish gangsters from the jewelry shop heist would be returning to do some more crime. So we hid in a nearby building and waited for them. Then, when they arrived, we went gangbusters and pumped everyone full of lead. As you can see, however, that didn't go too well, did it? So I ended up in prison. Free accommodation, free food, free clothes, free cool haircuts. What's not to love? Probably the free bum. What really sucked, though, was the fact that this jackass was also in prison with me. I knew then and there that I would be extending my jail sentence by approximately another 40 years later that day. For the main course, however, I decided to serve up a little entree to give him a taste of what he could expect later that day when I found him alone in the showers. My fisticuff skills caught the attention of the old man with the nice hair, who said he liked the way I moved. Then, before I could finish my opponent by kicking him in the testes, the warden stepped in and bashed me. They kept on bashing me until I had late-stage dementia, then tossed me into isolation with nothing to do but think about my actions and how they affect the testicles of those around me. It was just then that the old man with the nice hair came walking down the prison corridor, accompanied by the warden and prison boss man. As it turned out, he had an offer for me that I couldn't refuse. Not because it was a good offer, but because he had a gun and I couldn't refuse. The deal was that I would scrub the toilet urinals up close and personal while staring at the people peeing next to me. Naturally, this job resulted in copious amounts of urine splashing all over me, so I had to take a shower afterwards. Unfortunately, the shower was full of ratty dudes who wanted to get down and dirty, and the warden seemed to be okay with that. I, however, wasn't, and so this is what happened.
I like your scars, pretty boy. Where'd you get them?
Sorry, asshole. You picked the wrong ass to drill.
Anyway, after surviving every man's worst nightmare, I found the Irish dude alone in the gym getting a party pump, and I gave him his worst nightmare, which is a prison shiv in the neck. Nobody likes a prison shiv in the neck. It's just not good for you. After that, the old man invited me to his private jail cell and cooked me up some homemade spaghetti. It was pretty good considering the only ingredient was salsa. He then told me that he was getting out of jail in 5 minutes and that he'd put in a good word and get me out in 6. 7 minutes later, I was at Joey Smash's house and life was good once more. To celebrate, we put on our best rags and got ready for a fun night out at the local brothy with old mate Charlie Sheen. Now, whatever happened in this part of the game is absolutely 100% not suitable for YouTube, but it involved a whole bunch of... Anyway, the following day, we were all cracked from the wild night out at the club, so we decided to take it easy and drive around a truck full of stolen ciggies that we sold to some shady policeman for a profit. It was then, however, that the greasers rocked up and threatened to burn down our truck if we didn't get lost. But because we were tough, we said no, and well, they burned down our truck. Pretty big mistake though, if you ask me.
What do you say now, Porky?
What do I gotta say?
That's what I gotta say.
Back at the club, I told the boys that the baddie was now nothing more than a roll of mortadella and that I was ready for the big leagues. They introduced me to the boss of the family who agreed to make me a made man, and that's when life really started getting schmicko for your boy PlayStation Vito. Those were the days, I tell you. We had a great time making deals, bashing people, buying tons of suits, buying cars, shooting people in the face, kicking them while they were down, doing all of the good stuff. But all good things must come to an end, like our bank accounts at the end of our crazy shopping and killing spree montage. Then we were forced to go back to work, this time masquerading as two mustached Italian plumbers inside of an enemy family's base of operations. The plan was to fake it till we made it into the elevator, at which time we would ride it to the top of the building, then rig every office with a stack of GoldenEye proximity mines so thick that even the slenderest man wouldn't be able to walk around them. After doing so, we took the lift from the roof back down the side of the building with the intention of watching our handiwork from the outside in. Now, we probably should have factored in that a building rigged with explosives might pose some potential dangers if somebody wanted to perhaps abseil down the side of it pretending to be a window cleaner, but men back in the 40s or 50s or whenever the hell this story was set were built different and loved to catch a cheeky tan from a nearby exploding bomb.
What the hell was that?
When we got to the bottom of the building, though, we were greeted with the horrific reality that waited for us in the car park. Old mate Slippy Drippy was dead. It looked like it was probably from Ligma 2. Tragic. We then went back to Joey Smash's house for a dozen beers and some of the finest crack cocainist known to man. Not to woman, though. Woman knew even finer crack cocainist. Then later that night at 3 a.m. I got a call from a local bartender telling me Joey M. Smasher was in the bar, smashed off his head, and demanding more booze or else he would shoot the bartender. Now, I didn't see how this was my problem, but my childhood trauma coerced me into thinking this and everything else bad in the world was somehow my problem. So I headed to the bar to try and talk some sense into Mr. Smasher. It was actually going really well, and just as we were about to leave, Joey accidentally fired his gun and killed the poor bartender anyway. What a cruel mistress fate is, and what an idiot Joey is. I arrived back home the following day in some race car driver's suit with no recollection of where I'd been for the past 12 hours or how the hell I'd ended up in this ridiculous outfit. What really spun me out though was that my sister was sitting on my doorstep crying her eyes out. I did my best to act like I wasn't wasted and asked her what was wrong. She told me that her husband, Mr. Dick Cheese, was abusive and was always leaving the house late at night night to bang junkies in a crack house downtown. I, however, as a professional race car driver, could not allow such revolting crimes to go unpunished, and so I headed to the local crack house to crack heads.
Taking care of your wife, asshole.
As it turned out, however, my sister's hubby was a member of the local arsonist club and burnt down my house while I was sleeping in it. I couldn't believe it. After all my hard work selling stolen ciggies off the back of my truck to police officers, I was now homeless all over again. Obviously, this meant going to Joey M. Smash's house at 3 a.m. and asking for a place to stay, probably for the rest of my life because there was no coming back from a loss like this at my age. It was fine though. Joey had spruced up his house and it looked like a mix between a Floridian broth and a cheap Vegas casino. My kind of place. Now, I may have had no money, but I still had ideas, and so I met with the boys down at the local park to plan our next big get Rick I'm Rick James, bitch. We decided to hit up the local loan shark, Mr. Schmitzenbeuger, to borrow a large sum of money that we were going to invest in the crack cocainist market, as it seemed to be booming. Before heading to the local Chinese drug dealer, I ambushed some guy taking a piss in an alley and made sure that I got covered in urine, then headed in smelling like piss to do the businesses. 1 bag of monies for 1 bag of drugses. And I tell you, it was truly amazing to see how much the people of New York loved the crack cocainists. They couldn't get enough of it, and before we knew it, we were completely out of stock, and also addicted to crack cocainists, because we bought most of it ourselves. It was pretty good. Pretty good. Now, life had taken a great turn for me. I was now spending everything I had on suits again, and things were looking up. The ladies loved me too, which was pretty great, because I loved the ladies. But then, the Chinese guys got hold of old mate and hacked him to pieces in the middle of the park, because he was apparently working for the FB.
That's Henry.
Me and Mr. Smasher, however, refused to believe that old Henry Cavill was a rat, and so we bust into the local Chinese restaurant looking for a nice, succulent Chinese meal.
What is the charge? Eating a meal? A succulent Chinese meal?
The boss man of the rival gang said that we would never enjoy a nice, succulent Chinese meal in this town ever again, and so there was nothing else we could do. Such a threat could not go unpunished.
Are you crazy?
Later that day, old mate Paulie D called me into the local diner to ask me if I had anything to do with the massacre that went down at the local Chinese restaurant, to which I said, "Me no speak it English." It was then, however, that I realized that Joey was missing, so I headed to Uncle Tony's locksmith shop to ask him if he'd seen him, but he hadn't. "Joey, where are you?" I thought to myself as I ripped a massive fart all in my pants. I just knew that something fishy was going on, and I couldn't just ignore it and hope it would go away. After all, Joey was my boy and my boy was missing. I had to find him, even if it meant going into the belly of the beast from where I may never return. The cross-eyed doorman with the thick eyebrows pulled a gun on me and told me to empty my pockets, then put my hands up and my pants down. But the joke was on him, because I wasn't wearing any pants. I woke up sometime later on the rooftop of a building that was still under construction, handcuffed to a bar along with my boy Joey M. Some old guy that insisted he was my father kept telling me what a disappointment I was, and that had contraceptives been more reliable back in the day, I never would have existed. Then he left and his assistant punched me in the testicles, knocking me out cold. This, however, wasn't the first time that Joey and I found our hands wrapped around a long metal pole, and so we knew just what to do. Poor old piston Honda never saw it coming. And so this brings us to where this video started, with me getting hammered alone in an apartment somewhere, nothing to my name, a bounty on my head, and a rock-solid vengeance boner. The next morning at 3 a.m., I received a call telling me to go and meet the family boss at the local observatory for a little chat. I had a feeling that this was going to be fun, and so I put on my finest suit and headed straight there, optimistic and excited for the outcome of this fortuitous conversation. I got into my ride downstairs, but much to my surprise, it was with none other than the old man with the nice hair from jail that cooked me the pasta with nothing but salta, and some Chinese bloke, who told me that I had to go kill the boss of the observatory or be killed myself in that car, then and there. So I was like, where'd a gun? As soon as I entered the meeting room, I could tell that something sus was going on. This wasn't the romantic starlit dinner date that I was promised. Also, why was Joey M. Smasher now holding me at gunpoint? What did I ever do to him? What a plot twist, I thought to myself. I loved it. Plot twists are great. It was exciting. But the plot twist was actually on the boss guy, who thought he even had a 0.0001% chance of turning my boy Joey M against me. After all that we had been through back in the hood, never, mate. right.
Vito. Let's shoot this cocksucker.
Remember what we talked
On
about,
tree.
Joe. You're gonna throw all
One.
that away? Do it!
2.
Now!
And so, with a well-tossed Molotov cocktail, I burnt the boss guy to a crisp and busted a few cheeky caps in his behind to make sure the job was done right. As me and Joey M walked out into the street, finally rid of all these tyrannical bosses that had made our lives miserable over the past 10 hours of playing this game, we looked at each other and said, "Yeah, boy!" Then the old man with the nice hair told me that we had to ride in separate cars for some reason. Seemed a bit sus, but I said okay. And then, much to my horror, the other car drove away in the distance to the middle of nowhere probably and blew Joey's brains out all over the place. That's the end of this story. Hope you enjoyed it. It had nothing to do with the actual story, but it was probably better. Laters.